Hey guys, this is D, aka Dark Frozen Depths, back with some more Kamihime project. And in this, I'm going to end up covering some content that we do not have. So that's going to be, I guess it's probably not the first time, but it's definitely an acknowledged one, because this is going to involve a lot of different weapons and whatnot that we have in the game right now. But at the same time, ones that'll come down the line later. But I'm going to be covering a lot of weapon skills, and they will tie into other things as well, because first and foremost, there is something called character attack and elemental attack when it comes to Adolans. And if you've noticed, a Adolan like Ifrit has character attack 50% as opposed to Fafnir, who has fire water attack, I think it's 40%. In that situation, Fafnir is actually the better one to pick, even though she's got the lower percentage, because she has elemental attack. Character attack, pretty much like, if you know about, well, you should know about the assault weapons, but if you know about those, then assault pretty much gives a raw attack power increase to characters. Like if they have, say, 10,000 and the assault value is like 1%, then they now have 10,100 attack. But in the case of Fafnir, it's like elemental damage, so it's just a raw damage increase. So, say that 10,000 attack is doing, well, 10,000 damage. Then the 10,100 is going to do 10,100 damage. But in the case of Fafnir, she says, screw all that. The 10,000 damage would become 14,000. Now you see where I'm going. Now, it's not blatantly obvious like that. You have to do some serious number crunching, and I've seen the formula. It's disturbing. But the whole thing is, elemental attack tends to be better than character attack, and that's why you tend to get a lot of assault on your grid. Or even other weapons that can act like assault. And we'll get to that later. But you also have final weapon breaks, which is the final limit break for a weapon. Now, you might be thinking the final one is where you get to level 125 in the case of SSR weapons. Not true. It is for right now, but later on, we'll be able to get another one, which is a fourth and the final one for that one. And it will allow a higher level, a higher skill level, and even throw in extra skills. In the case of the dual weapons, some of them even get 3 skill effects. That's insane. But, that's the whole thing with that. We have to start pretty much, well, in some cases you might have already started preparing for it, but you more or less have to prepare for more stuff. That said, there's also been events where we had the Rahab Advent event, and then there's also the Light Demon Raid event. Well, they dropped some SSR weapons where you first look at them, it's like, yeah, sure, okay. But then they get some very, very powerful effects later down the line. So that's something to really keep in mind. You may want to start grabbing every single weapon you come across. Because I don't know if they'll do final weapon breaks on the SR weapons, but the SSR definitely have a good chance of it, especially if they came from an event. So you might want to be holding on to those. But we're going to start going through all the different effects. There's some of them I don't even really know about, and there's others I've heard about from players that did DMM, and I can clarify a little bit of what they said. And then there's also going to end up being weapon skills that you get for the souls. They call them spirits on the DMM side. I don't know why they didn't do that, because it confuses you with the most overpowered healer in the game. But there's also going to end up being something else called Calamity Weapons. They're constantly introducing new content that gives you very, very powerful stuff, but you need to be powerful as crap too. I already have an idea where the Calamity Weapons come from. It's not pretty. But anyways, your typical weapon overview, they break them down by element. And then they also give them different names for small, big, and medium ones. You more or less have to ignore all of this. Just ignore the names. Because here's one thing that will simplify that. It will have either a double plus for big, a single plus for medium, and no pluses for small. Ignore the prefixes. It helps if you know them, but Ignore the prefixes, just look at the pluses. Now, here's our different weapon skill effects. And this is where it could do a lot of special stuff. Now, there's Assault, which is an attack power increase. The standard stuff. Defender, HP increase. Again, standard stuff. Now, here's where we start getting into some interesting things. Pride. It's like Assault. It's like a small level of Assault, but it has a bonus effect of where your HP determines how much more attack power you can get out of it. Funny thing is, Vigorous is the same thing, but Pride and Vigorous are opposites. With Pride, the lower your current HP, the more attack power that character will get from that weapon. Vigorous, the higher their HP, the more they get. So now you kind of see where I'm going with that one. And to be quite honest, I feel like Vigorous is going to be more worthwhile than Pride, because the whole point of the fights is to try to keep your HP up so you don't die. But the whole thing is, they can balance each other out too if you have one of each. So therefore you tend to get an optimal boost from both of them, between both of them. Because the whole thing is, they'll immediately give you 10% more attack power, regardless of the situation. So they're like a small assault in that case, because small assault gives you 10%, large will give you like 16%, and medium will give you 13%. This is assuming skill level 20, because keep in mind, your maximum skill level can increase on the final breaks. But Pride at level 20, that is, I think 20% more attack power when your HP is at 5% or less. So you see, you have to be very, very dangerously low. At that point, you could probably get scratched and killed, because the enemies that you will be facing will progressively get more and more difficult. If you really want to start making the most out of your Pride weapon, you got to start playing extremely dangerous. Meaning you got to let them sit up and hurt you pretty badly in order to start hurting them back. That's why I like Vigorous, where you can just do it from the start and keep your HP up. But we don't have Vigorous just yet. We will get it eventually. But that's the whole thing between those. It's depending on your HP. Because I know Vigorous is the opposite, meaning that if you've lost 5% of your HP or less, you get the most boost. Meaning you have to be at 95% or higher. But having them both, which have been really do numbers on it, because you'll get a low Pride boost but a high Vigorous boost, or you might get a medium boost from both. So that's where it tends to help out. Now, this is where we get into some really interesting stuff. Rush is a double attack increase, meaning the chances of doing 2 hits when a character attacks is higher. But the thing is, there's a character in the game, and then there's a few buffs in the game where it forces double attack. That's where situation changes, because then they have a chance of doing triple attack on top of that. Rush will practically help you do more double attacking than triple attacking. Meaning, in the end, it kind of hurts you a little bit on those type of characters. That's where you got to be a little bit careful. Should you avoid a rush? No. You honestly shouldn't. Because not all your characters are forced to be doing double attack. But you have to be wary when you use those type of characters. Now, I don't know if they're really intending on calling this village or not, but it's triple attack probability up, and that's definitely the best one to go for when it comes to the attack probabilities, because the thing is, triple attack is insanely powerful. That's why I like characters that can force triple attack, like Kuchulain, because first off, you're getting 30 bursts off of that. You get at least 10 bursts on each one, not including the buffs and all that. And you're hitting the enemy 3 times, which is, if you want to be honest, in the case of R characters and SR characters, they're doing their, it's almost as if they happen to use their burst gauge, because they have set multipliers. Well, it may not be the case for SR, if they don't have certain buffs, but R characters definitely, because R characters, when they burst, they do 2.5 times their regular damage. So triple attack's already doing more than that. But the thing is, though, it's triple attack. That's definitely one of the best ones to aim for. It's not going to be as high as the double attack because your chances of triple attack is typically lower, and for good reason. But that's the whole thing. Now, sneak attack probability. If I'm correct about this, this is actually critical attack. I like calling it critical because sneak attack sounds like the overpowered debuff you get from Artanian. But the whole thing with this is that some Kamihime we have in the game right now, like Cybele and Nephthys, they have self buffs where they'll actually increase their the chances of pulling off what is called a sneak attack. It's really just a critical hit, and when it happens, it's double damage on that hit. Well, in the case of double and triple, I've never seen it deviate. So it seems to be if you trigger a double attack on top of that critical hit, then all those hits are doing extra damage. So it's more like you did 4 hits. So that said, Stinger can be a very good one to go after as well. Personally, if there's something that gives you Stinger and something that gives you quote-unquote Village, then those are going to be very, very strong. Very strong. They'll work wonders together. Now, Exceed. This one says burst performance up, but somewhere higher on the list, it said something about the upper limit increase. And that's why I'm wondering about this. Like, see? It says rise of damage, increase damage, upper limit. I know for a fact it increases the damage you deal with bursts. So in a case of like a SSR Kamihime, it might boost it from like a 5 times multiplier to like maybe 6 or 7. I don't know. When you start getting a lot more of these. But the thing is, I don't know if it will sip and increase the upper limits of skills too. Because the typical upper limit for skill damage happens to be 600,000. Somewhere around that mark. 600,000, 700,000, somewhere like about that mark. And that may or may not raise it too. But in teams that definitely pull off a lot of bursts, especially when we get some of the more prominent Awakened Kamihime, like Awakened Brahma and the Awakened Metatron, they'll definitely benefit from Exceed a lot. So that's one to keep your eyes out for. Ascension. Now, if you remember when I said something before, if you've seen my videos, where you want to grind that Pride weapon from the Light Raid, the Light Demon Raid, well, that's where this comes in. Because Ascension increases the amount of recovery you get. And on a character like, say, Soul, that already does it, she's healing a lot more. It's said that with 2 Ascension weapons at skill level 20, and then Soul's little recovery ability, she's healing practically double what she originally did. Possibly even triple. I don't know. But it's insane for your healers. Because if you want to be honest, I feel like the heals are crap unless they come from SSR. Because even with Brunhilde healing for 1,000 when you finally get her to level 65, I feel like that's still kind of mediocre, because typically in this stage of the game we're getting a lot more powerful raids, and we're starting to do some events, and now they have us doing challenges where we got a Soul Ragnarok fights. You probably want about at least 8,000, maybe 10,000 HP. So you're only really healing 1/8 to 1/10, and then you gotta wait a few turns to get another heal in. Meanwhile, you might be taking 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. Some cases, there's even been enemies that nuke you for 5 digits or more. It's like, I always felt the healings was underwhelming, and that's where Ascension really is going to come in handy, because it'll increase how much more you can do. Now, the only thing is that it's only good for when you've got healers. If you got somebody that puts like a regen, like Bellabog, then the Ascension can help you on that one too. I think it might affect it too when you do absorb. So, like, say I put Daki's buff on somebody and they get the HP absorb, I think it will zip and give them even more because they typically do 200 per hit they land. It might do something like make it 250 per hit. But that's the whole thing. Like, Ascension, it's dependent on if you have healers or not. If you don't have any really healers, or if you have like a fight where you don't need healers, like say you're grinding out the SB quest for more materials, then you don't really need to go out your way for Ascension in that grid, and you could probably replace it with something. But you do want those weapons, because you're going to need healers for every single team. Now, I already talked about Pride with Vigorous, so I'm going to skip that one. But Elaborate. Now, this one's ability damage up. Now, the whole thing with this is another case of where I can call it a misconception. Because ability damage does actually help you out, but only in the case of teams or Kamihime where you have a lot of abilities you can nuke with. In my case, my fire team has 4 abilities where I can nuke for a lot of damage, and very potent ones too. My dark team is kind of like that. My light team has quite a few abilities where I can just nuke enemies. But my thunder team, it's so-so, along with water, and then my wind team barely has any. So, that's the whole thing. Ability damage is just a raw damage increase, but towards your abilities, not towards every single hit. Some of these abilities can do a crap ton of damage. Like, if I do all the buffs right on Nephthys, and then all the debuffs, like the defense downs from that team, because I can hit the 50% cap, she'll do 600,000 damage easily. And keep in mind, I did this around the time when I had practically 13% in assault values, and nothing more. I have more assault now, so she probably will hit the damage cap very easily. But that's the whole thing. Ability damage increase can really spike it up. And some abilities really do hit insanely hard. I mentioned Nephthys has them. Susanoo O hits them pretty hard, especially on one target. Ares is like Susanoo O. Thor can hit kind of hard with theirs, especially if especially her healing ability if her HP is low. Sevarog, my god, Awakened Sevarog is insane with hers because she gets her own ability damage up buff, which stacks. Every single stack is plus 100%, meaning first time you cast it, double ability damage. Second time you cast it, triple ability damage. Third time you cast it, quadruple. Thing is, though, the stacks go away when you finally use the ability, but if you just keep stacking it and stacking it and stacking it, you can nuke pretty freaking hard. But that's the whole thing. It's like, ability damage, you gotta use it right. But now, here's where we start going into some interesting stuff. They have values for a lot of different things. I know for a fact that they have the Assault and the Defender values, which are more or less the same. So, in the case of Assault, right out the gate, if it's medium, add 3%. If it's large, add 6%. Same case for Defender. But you get 0.5% times the skill level. So, at level 20, you get a raw 10% increase. And then depending on whether it's medium or large, you get even more. At level 30, it's 15%, so that's rather insane. You get 21% assault at level 30 on a large weapon. I can't say SSR because not all of them have large, but that's what you're looking at. It's the same case for Defender. You will need assault. There is no avoiding that. If you want to do more damage, or if you even want to survive some of the later content, you will indeed need both Assault and Defender, but you will need Assault way more. And I say that because of the simple fact that with Defender, unless you're dealing some insane, absurd, godly damage, you will need the HP increases. There's a lot of enemies that can hit you pretty hard, and without any defenders, your base HP is probably going to be about 3, maybe 4,000. With a with a grid full of fully enhanced stuff. You might get it 5,000, I don't know, it depends on the Kamihime. But that's the thing. You need Defender. There's no avoiding it. You need at least one. You need probably at least 2 or 3. But dual weapons and tri-weapons, which is what I'm going to start calling the other ones, they have 2 effects and the tri-weapons have 3. You're probably going to find a Defender on those. There's a very good chance of finding a Defender somewhere on them. We have a lot of them that have a Defender Assault mix right now. I have like 2 or 3 of them on my light grid. But that's the whole thing. You're going to want Defender. Don't avoid Defender. Now, Pride. This, and the funny thing is, if it's small, the percentages are even lower. But the thing with this is the fact that with Pride, it's more or less a small assault. And this is the same case with Vigor, but it gives you attack power based on your HP, like I said earlier. Looking at these values, small is 0.35% per skill level, while medium and large is 0.5. However, in the case of the difference between medium and large is the fact that the differentiating value you get from your current HP, the large will give you more of a boost than the medium. That's the only difference between the two. If you're just sticking a Pride weapon on just for the base value and nothing more, then you're good enough just getting a medium. But if you want to get the most out of it, go for the large ones. And, well, Union Raid events hand those large ones out like candy. And it's the same case with Vigor. Now, they don't have percent values for these, but you see how low the rush and the village percentages are, right? For a small, on both of them, it is 1% if you get it to skill level 20. 1%. You want to get the large ones if you're going to go for it. I'm not going to say any more. Now, the whole thing with Stinger is the fact that you get pretty much a critical hit boost on this one. And I don't know what it is per skill level, but they say in theory it works the same way as the Defender and the Assault, so there you go for that one. Now, Exceed, you get 50% when you have this one. It's not a flat boost. Like small is 20 and medium is 30%. And I think it might be 40 or 50% on the large, but the whole thing with this is it's additive, not multiplicative, or however you pronounce that. What that means is if you have a 5 times multiplier on, say, an SSR, then that makes it a 5.5 times multiplier if you have both the 20 and the 30% equipped. And it seems the upper increase limit is another 100. So that combined with the Grails from the Union events, because you can sip and buff it even further with that, it's looking like you'll be capped at 7.5 regardless of what happens, without self-buffing, because some characters can do that. Metatron and Brahma is both going to be the ones that can do that, if they don't already. But the whole thing is, and Shingen can do it too, that's why a lot of people like her, but she does it for the whole team. But that's the whole thing with that. They do try to put a very hard cap on the burst because they do insane damage. Honestly, I think they do more than what the multipliers say, but who knows. That's the whole thing with a siege. You gotta be, like, you gotta be out your way in order to really find this. Yeah, it's 50% for, when you get skill level 30, it's 50% for the, large. I'll call it that. So it'll be 30 and 40% for the other two. Now, Ascension. This is where it really gets interesting. Ascension is a increase your recovery power. Meaning that, say, like you have the large Ascension at skill level 30, you get 40% more healing. So if a skill did 1,000, say in the case of Brunhilde, it's now suddenly healing for 1,400. That's why Ascension seems like it will be very, very good. But I don't know if there's a limit on the increases. Actually, reading this, it looks like it does have a limit, 200%. So, that said, that means you can get triple healing. In the case of somebody like Soul, that's a lot of HP. And I can't stop talking about her enough. Soul really is one of the most broken healers in the game. Is she my favorite character? No, that would probably go to, if I want to be honest, it'd probably go to Raphael. I like her way more than Soul. Hell, I like them both more than Daki. Even though Daki is still the waifu. But that's the whole thing. Like, when it comes to healing, Soul is at the top of the game. Hands down. Especially when she gets awakened, there's no contest. But this will just spike it even further. I cannot stress that enough. Get Ascension if you can. All your teams will need a healer. This will just help you survive more. It's actually more worthwhile than Defender. But that's the whole thing. And Vigorous, well, all I'll say is go see the Pride thing. That breaks it down pretty nicely. Elaborate. Now, this is the one I was worried about. And it seems like... See, this is an interesting thing. It's looking like they all just get a raw increase up to 30% at skill level 20. But it does say it's going to end up giving an additional increase depending on which size it is. So it'll be 35% for large, 33.5% for medium, and 32% for small. But think of this. Your skill is doing 35% more damage. That is very powerful. Like, if you're hitting for 600,000, 35% is sticking it past 800,000. That is insane. Now, this is the stuff that we're really going to start getting into some interesting things. Because now, there's weapons out there right now. We only have them for Arthur and Artanian. Where they're specific to the soul. Now, what I mean is, you don't get the effects if you don't put it as your main. But they give you a lot of massive effects when you do. And we can start getting these. We already have for a few cases. I just never rounded them out just yet. But what it's looking like is it's going to give you an oversized boost towards stuff. And they're going to get nerfed a little bit, I'm sorry to say, because it's saying that there's an implementation where it was modified to assault, meaning it's not going to be elemental attack anymore. But it's still worth it. But it's looking like this, a 30% increase to assault, which is still good. But right now, make the most of it, because that's a 30% increase to their freaking elemental attack for everybody. So that's pretty good. But they also come with a second effect where they'll also, like, increase a skill. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, there's a few of them that look like it'll, like, see, this one says right here that, Absolute Monarch's usage is shortened by 1 turn. That's just one of the effects it will do. added additional attack up effect to Guidance of Avalon, which means it will do even more of an attack power increase. Like, that's the whole thing about these weapons. They come with a nice amount of perks. They're not bad if you can get your hands on them. But the way you do it is through the catastrophe fights, which currently right now they're called Ragnarok. They're going to change that and rename them the Ultimate, because we're going to get ones that's even harder than what we got right now. But they're currently the hardest content in the game alongside rank 4 accessories. But there's some for Arthur, there's some for D'Artagnan, there will eventually be some for Mordred, some for Siegfried, some for Solomon. I don't know if they're going to do for Hercules, Morgan, and Shingen, but eventually, I hope. But the Calamity weapons are good. Very, very good. And you do want to get your hands on them. Especially in the case of some of D'Artagnans. D'Artagnans can sit up and do some debuffing where it's like, okay, you know how her sniper shot does 20%. Put this weapon on her and now does 30%. Yeah. Which means you're doing 60% damage and taking 30% less. But now, we talked about a lot of weapon skills, but here's the one thing they all have in common. You gotta raise their levels. Now, in the case of R weapons, and you really shouldn't be trying to cap these, but the success rate for R weapon is half the current skill level. So, if it's a level 2, you need one R weapon in order to sip and get a 100% success rate. In the SR weapon department, it's the current skill level. So, if it's level 1, you need one weapon. If it's level 2, you need 2 R weapons. And in the case of SR, it's half this current level. I mean, it's twice the current level, not half. So that means if it's level 1, you need 2 R weapons. If it's level 2, you need 4. And so on. Now, it's said that there's an efficiency type thing where you have to put in a certain amount of R weapons into weaker stuff in order to get the most output. More or less, I feel like it's like, if the total increase value outweighs the R weapons you put in, then you've done good. That's where I tend to stand on that part, but the efficiency can make you get a little bit more and use less materials. So, it's all depending on how lazy you really are. But that's the whole thing with that one. And then there's the Grails. You've seen a lot of R ones probably by now, and maybe even a few SR ones. R Grails act like 2 R weapons. SR Grails act like 5. I don't know what the SSR one is, but what I do know is the fact that if you throw an SSR weapon at something to raise the skills, it's guaranteed 100% somewhere around up until like skill level 16. The SSR Grail goes even further than that. So keep that in mind. If you really don't want to keep an SSR weapon that badly, you might just want to sip and trade it off for some materials later down the line. But if you do want to feed something into another thing to increase the skill level, SSR weapons will cover the majority. They'll cover the first half of raising it, at least. So that's something to know, but not something I recommend. You're better off keeping your SSR weapon until you can sip and trade it for stuff. Because hey, guess what? How do you even get the final breaks? You get an item code or child come from Guild Order, which is even harder than the content we have right now. Keep that in mind. I will even flat out say this. The average enemy, not bosses even, the average enemy in Guild Order has at least 1 million HP. Good luck. And to think, the catastrophe rates are going to get even harder too. Because you think that's bad? Guild Order. Bosses there will probably have about 10 million. Then we'll get something called the Tower of Malice, where it starts off maybe expert level difficulty, but then goes up to like Guild Order difficulty, and you can't use the same Kamihime twice for a while, so you want to get a lot of Kamihime. And then on top of that, they'll slip and eventually make the catastrophe raids even harder, which means the Ragnaroks will get renamed the Ultimate, and they'll bring out a true Ragnarok. The current Ragnaroks, they have probably about anywhere between 10 million to 40 million HP. Later down the line, that's going to be like at least 100 million. Yeah, content's going to get insanely hard. And to be quite honest, the one thing I kind of don't like about the power creep is the fact that it seems like it might be based on characters or people that's happened to like learned about the mechanics and abuse the crap out of them. Now you're kind of forced to abuse the crap out of them, otherwise you're going to just get your ass handed to you. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. So that said, you definitely want to take a lot of this stuff to heart, because you're going to need a lot, and I mean a lot of stuff. But the funny thing is, too, they also got a calculation type thing where they gave everything points. Honestly, if you really want to try and go through stuff, then points will more or less help you try to figure things out. But the thing is, it's still depending on how much you really want to gamble on things as well. If you don't want to gamble at all and want to always get that 100% probability, you need to grind out a lot of weapons. Believe me. Just trying to level up the SR, it's going to take a lot. Because to get from skill level 19 to skill level 20, you need 19 R weapons. And for SSR, that's doubled. And keep in mind, that's just getting to skill level 20. We haven't even gotten the ability to go past that yet. So it's going to get very, very grindy. You're going to have to spam those gachas in order to try and get that stuff, because the gem gacha might feed you R weapons, but the other ones are guaranteed to. Well, not guaranteed to give you R weapons specifically, but the R rarity is the lowest. So you're going to have to spam those gachas. If you want Grails, chances are you're going to get them from raid events. Especially the Union raid, they hand them out like candy. But and I'm not kidding, I got like 20 R Grails just from this raid event alone. And I think I got like 10 SR ones. But that's the whole thing. You got to grind out a lot of stuff for this. Especially considering the fact that if you really do need some assault values, don't go out your way to try and get the R weapons. Go fight the normal disaster raids. Or the catastrophe ones, so you can handle it because they can drop them too. And get the SR assault weapon. If you need a defender, do the same thing. Because honestly, my fire team needs defenders. I need to go grind them out, and I got a better chance of finding them. But that's the whole thing. You need to grind out weapons. You need to grind out weapons to put into your weapons. I wish I was making that up. But when you finally do it, it's very, very satisfying and worthwhile. Believe me when I say this, because it really does spike the ever-loving crap out of your attack power. Some people have been looking at me doing the Union raid battles and wondering, how am I doing 300,000 damage in one round of attacks? Well, let's see. That's between my grid, that's between buffing, that's between debuffing if they stick, that's between Idoans. You want to abuse every mechanic you can. So, that said, I'm going to end this video here for the weapon skills. But I'm going to try to maybe get one for Idoans. They're going to keep adding a whole crap ton of them, so I got to cover just the basic stuff. And I might eventually try to get like grinding tactics out for some stuff too, because you do have to grind like a madman in this game if you want to even have a remote chance of some of the harder content. But anyways, that's all I got for this, guys. This has gone on long enough. This is just part 2 of a series of guides I'm probably going to be doing for this, so I could just cover everything and not have to come back again. But anyways, that's all I got for this, guys. Take care.